What's up guys, Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is The Walking Dead Season 7, Episode 16, Season Finale, The First Day of the Rest of Your Life. First of all, I want to apologize because yesterday was like the highest pollen count we've had in Georgia this season, so I'm not really feeling well right now, and this review probably won't get uploaded for a couple days because I got to catch up on all the shows I missed last week. I was really busy and then I got sick at the end of the week, so I haven't had any time to catch up on those, but I did manage to watch this and I wanted to get the review out before I forgot what happened, so I'm going to record it and then upload it whenever I get caught up on the rest of my reviews. So anyway, let's talk about this, because honestly, a very fitting finale for what I thought was maybe just going to be, oh, Negan kills some people to spark the war that happens. Honestly, kind of, but not really. You know, you look at how this episode is set up, and it's set up very, very well, in my opinion. First of all, we see a lot about Sasha. You know, she's in this dark space, she's listening to headphones, and at the beginning of the episode, it looks like, you know, she's like choking on something, and, you know, so I was, at the very beginning, I'm just like, wait, did she take the poison? Like, no, that's too easy. Like, there's no way that they just showed us her taking the poison. They did. But they did it very cleverly in that they showed kind of the build-up, and they kept the reason hidden from us until we found out what exactly was going on. And I love it whenever a show can do that. Whenever they show us something, and it's almost like they show it so obviously that we want to say, no, you're lying to us right now. But they're not lying. They're just kind of holding back some information that when you find out later, it actually makes a lot of sense why all of this is going on. So, first of all, I want to talk about her scenes with Abraham, because first of all, it made me miss Abraham all the more. Just listening to him talk to her, some of the stuff he said was freaking hilarious, and God, I wish he was still on the show. Like, he's just such a funny character. So many good lines from him. And Negan has taken that place a little bit, but I don't think anybody can fully take the place of Abraham, and some of what he says is just way too funny. But a lot of their scenes were very heartfelt. It was nice to see sort of the last conversation they had before they went out on a mission, the final mission for Abraham. So I really liked that. There was another couple scenes that, I don't know, it didn't really make sense. This is probably the only thing that didn't make sense about this episode. We saw like Sasha and Maggie sitting outside of Hilltop and watching the sunset. I don't know if that was supposed to show us, oh, Maggie and Sasha had a connection. If it is, I already knew that. You know, they were over at Hilltop together for all of this season. They were together and helping each other get through the loss that they just suffered, both of them. And so, I don't know, it just felt like that scene, I was wondering if at the end there was going to be something said between the two of them that was going to reveal something about Maggie going forward. But nothing. Nothing was said. They just both watched the sunset, smiled at each other, as in present time, Sasha's walker is getting killed. And I'm just like, is that all you were trying to show us? Because that feels like a waste of a scene, to be honest. And the only reason that upsets me a little bit, you know, I don't mind them showing some connections between the characters, but there were a couple scenes when the battle stuff was going on where things just went so quickly. Like, it felt like 1 second they're here, and then the next second it's done. You know, the fighting is done. Carl's captured out of nowhere. I don't know, it felt like there was a lot of jumping around that probably could have been saved in the editing room if they took out those, I don't know, probably took about 3 minutes. No, less than that. I'll say about a minute and a half of those scenes with Maggie and Sasha. I don't really think you need those. You know, I don't think you need to show us that. We already know Maggie became close with her after what happened to Abraham and Glenn. You know, they suffered a loss together, so of course they're close. I just didn't see a need for it. But anyway, moving on to sort of the main plot for this episode. We see, first of all, Rick is questioning Dwight. Does he really want help? Daryl is about to kill him. Tara, of course, wants him to kill him. But Daryl says, no, I'm not going to, because he thinks he kind of has a plan with how he can help. So he throws down all these trees to block the Savior's Pass because they're on their way to Alexandria, which would give Rick and his group time to get ready for them. So they invite the junkyard people in. Great to have them back. Honestly, don't really like these people just because I talked about them in the review of that episode. Listening to them talk just it kind of kills my brain cells because not only is it dumb, but the fact that people after the apocalypse started talking this way, like cavemen or like the old Native Americans whenever Christopher Columbus first came over and started teaching them English. I don't know, it's just, come on, that's really, really dumb. But they invite them back to help them fight, so they have a plan in place. They have some explosives set in the truck, ready to blow them all to smithereens. And Dwight does block their path to give Rick and the group time to do this. So they get there, but they put Eugene up front, and he's standing right next to the truck with the explosives, talking on a megaphone. And Rick kind of asks him, "Where's Negan?" And he says, "I am Negan." And so at that point, Rick says, "Sasha, blow him up." And I find this very, very interesting because the truth is, I mean, he was willing to kill Eugene there because he felt like Eugene had betrayed him. And we see later on, Eugene hadn't really betrayed them. You know, he's still working against Negan from the inside. You know, he gave Sasha the pill. He said, you know, he was talking to her, and I love this line because it was so subtle, but it works so well. He said, "They're planning to do this," and Sasha said, "They're planning?" Kind of surprised because so far all we've seen from him is, "I am Negan." You know, he is Negan. That's what it seemed like so far. This is the first time we've heard him say anything against that. And he just, simple little line, "They're planning to do this and this." That's all it took, and now we know Eugene isn't fully committed to Negan. He's just doing this right now for himself, but he's not going to do it at the expense of Rick and the group, I don't think. You know, there is a little question to be had of the fact that he didn't really do anything to help them right now when everything started looking bad. But I still think, you know, the Sasha attacking Negan was enough to kind of show he does have something against Negan, and he's not just, you know, at the end of it, he says, you know, "Oh, she must have run out of air in the coffin." So he's lying to him. He knows he's responsible. I'm curious to see where this is going to go next season, but I like kind of the going back and forth of Rick planning to kill him, but then he's not planning to kill him, but then, you know, what's going to happen. So, of course, the junkyard people turn against Rick because not only are they idiots, they're assholes too. They take their guns, point them at Rick and his people, and so now it seems like, oh, well, Rick's beaten again. But, like I said, Sasha had a plan, and this is why the genius of how they set this up really, really works, because they showed us all these scenes, and whenever they pulled out the coffin, I'm thinking, okay, so this is why she's in the dark. This is why, you know, she's in a dark place right now. She's inside the coffin, right? And so then we see the final scenes where she's talking, she's talking to Eugene. She's, you know, inside the coffin, putting on the headphones, taking the pill, and then it hits me. I'm like, holy crap, she's a walker now. Negan opens it up and attacks Negan. There you go. Of course, he's not gonna die that way because that's just, it's way too easy. You know, Rick, I'm pretty sure is gonna be the one to kill him. If not Rick, then probably Maggie. But I knew he wasn't gonna die from this. But it's kind of funny to see how he's getting attacked. He can't get her off, and then one of the guys comes up to help him, pulls Sasha off of him, and then gets attacked himself. I'm like, yeah, they have dedication to their leader, don't they? Oh yeah, eat my face because I don't want you to eat his face. So, of course, that does leave an opening, though, for all of Alexandria to start fighting back. You know, they take the guns, start shooting people, start running to safety. And so this leads to, you know, like I said, kind of a jump cut scene where we see a bunch of fighting going on, and then all of a sudden we see Rick still up top with that weird looking lady that leads the junkyard people, and he's talking to her, and I'm just waiting for Michonne because she was up on the rooftop with another one of them. I'm waiting for her to win the battle and then just shoot her in the head, but that never comes. So she shoots Rick in the side, so now he's wounded, he can't really fight. She's taking him to this open space. Like I said, somehow Carl got caught, didn't see how, but now he's on his knees, and then Rick's on his knees, and we see Michonne is fighting against that woman. Not really doing too well, you know, she's getting her face bashed in, and then she manages to get a stab in, but I don't know, I'm confused as to why Michonne was losing to this woman, because it seems like Michonne should be able to kick her ass pretty easily, but she doesn't for whatever reason. So now we see Rick, you know, obviously Negan is taunting him, saying, "I'm going to kill your son, I'm going to crush your hands," and all of that stuff, and it's just, it's typical Negan. Anytime he is on screen and he is talking to Rick and he is just downing Rick, it's a lot of fun, but it's also really nerve-wracking because you never know what's going to set this guy off. Because it feels like he's just got this, it's almost like his brain is a happy trigger finger. And so anything that Rick says might set him off to where he just bashes somebody's head in. I'm just waiting for it. But as he's talking, all of a sudden they hear a scream. Somebody falls to the ground. I'm like, oh no, they killed Michonne off screen. I didn't expect that at all. It's not like she just killed the woman and we're going to find her later still alive or anything like that. And so Negan's still talking, saying, oh, you just lost someone you truly cared about right now, didn't you? So he's setting up to kill Carl, and I'm just like, okay, so where's the Deus Ex Machina? Well, we kind of have a little bit of one, but at the same time, it's kind of like the ghost people in Lord of the Rings, the third one. It's not a complete Deus Ex Machina because the idea of it was set up. It's not like the Eagles that just sort of come out of nowhere. This was actually kind of set up because we saw the people from the kingdom walking somewhere, and it was just like, well, where are they going? And then on top of that, we see Maggie and Hilltop talking about they need to be ready to fight or something along those lines. And so I was like, okay, so are they planning to attack something? Well, it turns out they're both heading for Alexandria. I want to find out how they figured out this is going to happen. I think, if I had to guess, Jesus had something to do with it for Hilltop because he did go, he was there whenever Dwight told him about the plan. So I'm assuming he went to Hilltop, but I'm wondering how the kingdom found out because, I don't know, it feels like he went to Hilltop, so that makes sense, but were the kingdom already planning on coming and they just happened to show up at the right time, or did somebody send them word that something was about to happen? I don't know. But ultimately they show up just in time. Probably one of the best scenes this entire season. Negan's about to hit Carl with a bat, and all of a sudden a tiger comes out of nowhere. I forget the tiger's name now. Crap. I'm gonna hate myself because I don't remember the tiger's name. Dang it. I'll remember later once I look it up. But King Ezekiel's tiger jumps on one of Negan's guys, and just the look on Negan's face, he's like, holy shit, and just runs off. And so now they're getting out of dodge before the tiger can attack them. But things aren't completely over yet, because we do see, there's still some fighting going on. Michonne was already done with her fight. But we see a lot of the junkyard people are still fighting, but as soon as the Hilltop and the Kingdom start coming in, at that point it's just like, okay, Negan's people and the junkyard people are like, time for us to go. And so the junkyard people throw some smoke down, they shoot a flare up, which I'm assuming is their sign of retreat, and so they start taking off. Kingdom people, Alexandria people, Hilltop people are all like, let's go, we gotta finish this now. But unfortunately, by the time they get out there, all of them are gone. So they live to fight another day, everybody else lives to fight another day. Like I said, we're setting up for a war next season, and this is the perfect setup for it. So let's talk about a couple of things that did work. First of all, I think just King Ezekiel in general, I'm so glad his character got introduced this season, but seeing him in action is just a lot of fun. Alexandria will not be defeated this day. I don't know, once again, I don't know why this made me think of Lord of the Rings, but I'm thinking, and it is not this day. No, this day we fight. I'm just, his scenes are also, just like Negan's, a lot of fun. So seeing him in action was a lot of fun. Seeing just a lot of the Kingdom scenes in general, Morgan with Carol, kind of seeing that bond that's forming of two people who wanted away from the fighting but are starting to realize we can't get away from it. This is the world we live in now. It's a constant fight. I love the duality of it, because we saw, Morgan was so convinced for the longest time that killing is completely wrong, but then he realized killing is wrong unless you're doing it for a right reason. Carol has kind of been sort of the opposite of that, where she's been a killer for whatever reason to protect the people that she loves. Whatever she has to do, even if it means scaring the crap out of a little kid to make sure he doesn't ask too many questions, that's what she does. Well, now she started to realize that she's losing herself, and so she wanted to get away from that, but then she started to realize this is part of who she is. Well, Morgan may possibly be losing himself back into the monster again, so, I don't know, I guess the connection between the two of them and seeing their stories side by side is very, very interesting. I hope they continue to use that a little bit more than some of the other side characters. Uh, Another thing, obviously, this is the death of Sasha. She's been around for quite a while now, and now she's gone. I will admit it wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't as emotional as some of the other deaths that we've had. Obviously, um, mainly because she went out how I wanted her to go out. She went out with a plan to attack Negan as a walker. It was her way. It was on her terms, and I think that's what changes her death as compared to Abraham's death or Glenn's death. They went out because Negan bashed their head in, and that's not how I wanted to see either of them go out. Watching Sasha decide it's my time. This is how I want to go out. She takes the poison. She knows that she'll become a walker. She has a chance after she's dead to attack Negan. That's just what she wants to do, and it's on her terms. And honestly, that makes that death, I think, a lot less of a heartbreak. Like some of these characters that we've lost have just come at shocking moments. They've come at moments where it's just like, you weren't really expecting it, or it's not the way you wanted to see him go. This is the perfect death, in my opinion. So while that does take a little bit of the shock and awe that the show has with a lot of his deaths out of it, I still think you need a death like this. You need a character to go out how pretty much the audience wants her to go out, and in a way that she wants to go out as well. She, as a character, I think she really does deserve a death like that, and because it almost kind of makes up for the fact that Abraham didn't get to go out like this, I think that just kind of it helps that storyline between the two of them. I really like that. I guess sort of the comparison there, the connection between the two of them. It really works, and it kind of shows that they still can tell a really good story. I mean, honestly, listening to them talk about just that scene where she's talking to Abraham and he's talking to her about how they throw their big meats on the line for other people. That's just what they do. That scene, and then on top of that, the scene at the end where Maggie is talking to Rick off screen, and they're talking about coming in and helping, and she says it's what Glenn would have done. He helped you even though he didn't know who you were, so I was just following his example, and showing her holding his pocket watch at the end. It just flows so nicely, and I think honestly there isn't a lot of really, really well written stories out there right now. Like some of them rely so heavily on, oh, we gotta sell these relationships, we gotta sell these characters, we gotta sell this, we gotta sell that. A lot of them forget about telling a really well written story. Whether it's the characters are not well written, or the plot is not well written, or the action is not well written. For me, this episode kind of showcases the best writing in most of the shows I see nowadays. And so, honestly, I think that's kind of just exemplified in not just the connections, not just the... What's the word I'm looking for? It's more than just connection. It's like the comparisons between the two. I don't know, just all of how well it was written, it just really, really hit in this episode. It really, really worked. And on top of that, the fact that they managed to get through with the fact that this is leading to war, I think we all knew that's where it was going. I think everybody that's been watching the show knew this season was going to end with, okay, a war is coming. This is going to be the episode that pretty much kicks it off. And that's what it ends on. We see Negan at Sanctuary walking out in front of a crowd of people and saying it's time for war, and everybody's just there. And on top of that, we see Rick and his people, and they're got their own little army too. So we knew this was leading to war, but just the way that they did it, the action, the character development inside of all of this, it really, really worked. So aside from the couple scenes with Sasha and Maggie that I feel like they could have left out to maybe not have a few errors later on in the episode, I just think this was really a perfect episode to end off the season. So, on to my final thoughts for the season. I think this was a really, really successful season after what I think left a lot of people disappointed last season. You think about not just the ending of it, not just the cliffhanger and how pissed off everybody was about that, but also just, obviously the mega herd was a huge part of the first half of the season, and just dominated the first half of the season, got everybody excited. Even the Glenn death scene, even that pissed people off, but the Mega Herd in general was awesome. And the second half of the season kind of slowed down and said, okay, well, we're going to build up Negan and all of these people, and then ended off a huge cliffhanger that everybody was pissed off about. This season said, we're going to have to pick it up, and they really did. It was it wasn't as fast moving. The first half of the season, I feel like, was a lot of intensity. It felt like anybody could die at any time. It wasn't really sure what was going to happen. Negan added this kind of fuel to the show that it had been missing for the past couple seasons, in my opinion. So his introduction really kicked off the first half of the season and really just started speeding things up, and it felt like every single episode, not just the fact that Rick was completely subdued by him for the first half of the season, but also seeing the characters that were in peril. Daryl was at Sanctuary, he was in a cell, and it looked like any episode Negan might just say, you know what, I'm sick and tired of you, and kill him. That story was intense. You had Carl breaking into Sanctuary and trying to kill everybody, and the possibility that he might die. You had the people at the Kingdom, all of them possibly tussling with the Saviors. And so after the mid-season finale, where Negan pretty much goes into Alexandria, kills a couple people, and Rick says, you know what, that's it. I'm not taking any more of this. After that, it was all build up for this final episode, the kickstart of the war. And looking back on it now, even though I did say there were a couple episodes that maybe slowed it down a little too much, I think overall the second half of the season definitely, when you look back on it in as a whole, in general, if you look back on it and just look at how well they paced each episode, showing us this part and then this part and then this part, were there a couple that could have been shortened a little bit? Probably. But I still feel like they still gave us something was happening. Something was going on. Something was moving forward. It was like watching chess. Watching the pieces move around, watching the opponents. And the best part about it was not just this person versus this person in chess, because you had Negan and the Saviors at the Sanctuary, but on top of that you also had Simon and what possibly was his little group, and then on top of that you had the group that was visiting the Kingdom, and you had all of these different moving pieces from the Kingdom to Alexandria to the Hilltop to Oceanside to the Junkyard people. I mean, all of these moving pieces, it's almost like six-way chess, watching everything sort of move along, and to ultimately find out that the Junkyard people, Negan came with a better offer, and that's all they wanted. I will say that pissed me off a little bit, but I don't think it's the writing. There's some elements in a show where the writing is poor, and so that pisses me off. This was more like, that's just who these people are. Rick and his group did so much to help them out, to get them what they wanted. All Negan does is just come in and bring them a better offer, and they're just like, yeah, we'll turn on them. I just think that's how these people are, and honestly, I hope they get killed off early next season, because they are kind of frustrating. So they're one of those characters that you just don't want to see a whole lot more of, kind of like Gregory. But overall, I mean, just this second half of the season, while some people look at it and say, oh, it was slow, it was boring, I look at it and say it was good character building leading up to a kind of climactic finale, which ultimately kickstarts the war, which will be hopefully most of next season. I hope they don't just say, oh, the war's done halfway through the season, now let's talk about something else. I want it to be, this is the 8th season, the war. So I'm looking forward to it, and all in all, great final episode, good season overall. Still not up to the same heights, but I think part of that is just because it's changed as a show. So I think some people, including me, need to look at the fact that this isn't the same show that it started as. This isn't the same story, same characters. A lot has changed, and for good reason. This has been 7 years now in story time that has happened since the apocalypse first started. It makes sense that things would change. So I think, some people who are complaining about the show, talking about how bad it is, that type of thing, I think they really need to look at the fact that it's changed as a show, and so they need to accept the fact that things are going to change, and look at it as the new show that it is, because I think if you take that concept, if you take that idea and apply it to this show, you'll see it's a good show. It's enjoyable. It's not the same, but it's still good. So those are my thoughts on this episode. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What did you like and dislike about this episode and this season? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all the good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Walking Dead reviews next season. I'll see you guys at the next one. Peace out.